Most people understand your license age plays a role when calculating your insurance premium. If you didn't, well, now you know. The logic behind this is simply that the number of years you have had your driver's license for speaks to your driving experience, and experience matters, with statistics supporting it. So you can brace yourself on a higher insurance premium for the first couple of years after having obtained your license. It is a pain every new license holder has to endure. But did you know your license category also plays a role in your monthly short-term insurance premium? Data is core to any insurance company's rating model. Insurers have long realized that the loss ratio across the different license categories gives insight into risk. I say the following not to take a dig at anybody, but purely sharing my personal experience. Whenever I have reviewed a claim for authorization, finding the incident description totally unexplainable, would a quick reference to license type and experience offer some explanation? I say this with tongue in cheek, but inexperienced drivers have the ability in causing an accident that sounds almost surreal. C1 category licenses has seen a drastic increase over the last decade, with many new applicants opting for a C1 license as opposed to a normal B or EB category. Now, we appreciate that many people obtain a C1 license in the hope of securing a job. The question, however, that begs asking is, why are people opting to obtain a C1 license as opposed to a category B license, if the only intent is buying a standard sedan vehicle? And more importantly, is there a correlation in the skills being tested between the different license types that might explain the loss ratio discrepancy experienced at claim stage? We would like to throw a disclaimer here. We believe experience and license type goes hand in hand. So if you have had your license for 20 years, are we confident that you are a capable and able driver by now? So we are very much focused on the first 5 years of your driving experience and the role the license category has on your driving ability in the initial phases. Asking myself the question, did I have many opinions and explanations to the answer? Instead, did we phone several driving schools and ask them to explain why people are opting the C1 route? The result of our interviews was unanimous. C1 driving tests were not as technically challenging as a B or EB license type. Many of the people we interviewed also alluded to the fact that the levels of corruption and bribery on C1 license categories outnumber B and EB categories by far. During one of our interviews was highlighted that you can pull away in second gear with a C1 license type category vehicle, never having to change a gear throughout the entire test. Others also supported the fact that the parking tests were inferior to B and EB license categories. And here is the reason, again not relevant to the insurance industry but fascinating and thus worth a share. As we do in South Africa, do we go over to first world countries, take their laws and then adapt them to our environment? The only problem is we sometimes miss key components of the law we are so eager to implement. And we certainly have many such examples to reference. In first world countries, would you need to climb the proverbial ladder in license categories, which means you would first need to obtain a code B category, then progress onto a code C1 and so forth. It is for this reason that the C1 tests does not include all the technical skills of the B or the EB license. The logic being that you have already been found competent on those skills and therefore need not be tested again. The problem is we missed this key step, allowing for people to immediately go for a C1 without testing all the required skills in operating a smaller vehicle. We were furthermore informed that when government tried to remedy this, was there such an uproar that it died a very quick death. I therefore state this at risk of being vilified. If you don't require a C1 license for the purpose of your career, yet you elect to go for the C1 license route due to it being easier, then accept that you gamed the system. Accept that you admitted that your driving experience might possibly not have stood the test of time of a Code B or an EB license. And then finally accept that your insurance company might load your premium. I was always aware that the data indicated C1 category licenses attracts a higher loss ratio, but our exercise has certainly given us some logical explanation thereto. It is important to note that not all insurance companies rate based on driver's license category, nor are all insurance companies' claims experience the same. The great thing about data is that it evolves. So maybe in a couple of years from now, does the data suggest a totally different landscape? Or maybe government implements changes at the licensing stage, which ensures appropriate competency testing at all different license categories. Whichever, can you bet your bottom dollar that the actuarial department within the insurance companies will adapt to the latest trends and respond by adjusting premiums accordingly. For now, realize that taking the easy route in obtaining your license category might cost you a pretty penny over the next 5 years. Cause and effect, you always pay the piper in one way or another. And finally, armed with this knowledge and realizing you do hold a C1 license that is only a year old, do not even think about misrepresenting the true facts to your insurer. If you are, please be sure to watch our video on the most common insurance pitfalls.